revolutionary violence and counter-revolutionary violence. A distinction between a just war and an unjust war. That's what we mean in the Black Panther Party when we say that the oppressor has no rights which the oppressed are bound to respect.
Indeed, no one ally within the oppressor group has the right to tell the oppressed group what tactics to use for their own liberation struggle. I criticize the methods of third world revolutionaries, but at no time do I tell them what tactics to use. This is Jason Unruhe, the Maoist rebel, political commentator and third worldist communist, telling the truth, no matter how mad it hurts. Bringing you the words of Fred Hampton, the greatest Black Panther that ever lived. His martyrdom must never be forgotten.
You basically knowing my ideology, and basically you knowing me knowing yours, you can support some of our programs. Is that what you're saying?
Why not?
And you believe in programs like the Breakfast for Children program and free health clinics? Right on, brothers?
We believe they're good things.
Uh-huh.
As a focal point to organize their mothers and fathers.
Uh-huh.
Peace.
Mm-hmm. There's no educational program here?
That's come out of the social action thing. You know, you set that up, brother. I mean, we can't put everything on one piece of paper.
What about this bank?
Credit union?
Mm-hmm.
Credit union. Credit union, my brother. Is a bank.
Are you hip to credit unions?
It is a bank.
Yeah, you go and borrow money?
Yeah, it's a bank.
It's a bank.
Owned by the people. Run for the people. And by the people.
What will money be given out to people for?
Well, the people would decide that.
You want to buy?
You know, whatever, you know, the people in the community decide.
You need some living room furniture, maybe? You need a car, maybe?
See, the thing is with me, you dig, I need to know some more about it. I wish you had some more literature about the educational thing here. Because, you dig, as far as we're concerned in the struggle, the way we look at struggle is that this depends on the educational thing, you dig. Because
this depends on the education.
Well, the whole thing.
No, but in the end, this does. You can form this with no education. You can form this and this.
No, not the way we're talking about forming it. You know, right. We're talking about forming it right. You know, it's not on the paper. We didn't write it on the
You
paper.
can form it right with no education.
No.
Let me give you an example. Jomo Kenyatta formed the excellent revolution with no education. And on the day of the end thing, Jomo told the motherfucker, said, well, you know, you can educate, hate the enemy, but I'm your brother. I'll help you lead the revolution. Now I'm going to oppress you. Another example, Papa Doc in Haiti. Papa Doc in Haiti hated everything white. Man, you couldn't put this white paper in front of Papa Doc's face. But he moved all the white people out and he took over and be oppressor. He did, because of no education. And the people that had been educated, they said that we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know the educational program to find out what is going to be in the finale. A lot of people, Jomo Kenyatta is called not never a revolutionary, but an ex-revolutionary. So is Papa Doc. They brought on a successful revolution. That thing in the Mao's was a bitch. Bantu freedom fighters, all that kind of action. What we're saying is that it's the end. That you don't judge Castro now. You can't do it. Nobody in this room could judge whether Castro's going to be a revolutionary or not. You know what I mean? We're talking about things, you know what I mean, with China, the People's Republic, and even at the stage they're in now, talking about even going on further into a communistic state. That's what we're talking about. Those are revolutionary. So we got to understand here the educational program that you have to be able to figure out whether it will go on the right lines where the people will end up in a situation where they can be able to really control themselves. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, the people take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people's thing anyway. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa now, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be an educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
I have already explained in my former video Anti-Colonialism 2012 that the white nation does not exist. I have even explained how anti-white politics does not remove the white lie. Jewishness exists. Blackness exists. Whiteness does not. If you don't get it, go to my former video. Check it out. Please do not throw insults. Also, I give anarchists free reign to tear apart any of the Nosbles or Strassers in my comment section. As far as my memehood goes, I never wanted it. I placed Neil Jacobin in charge of the Unruhe fan club. Down with the stupid Glasnow gang. I wear glasses, and I don't like anti-Jewish shit. I can hear it now. Jason is a Jew. Fuck off, seriously. Your anti-Semitic shit is part of the PSYOP. Here is Malcolm X.
I have to say this, and I'll sit down. Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill him. They'd send some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said. You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were two kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master. Good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" He was as sick as the master. When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes. They ate the worst food. And they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh, yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes.
Malcolm X would have opposed Barack Obama. Obama is a neo-colonial puppet answering to his white masters. This is part of the First World Crisis. Best example, Steve's struggle is of the field. Obama is of the white man house. Zionism is neo-colonialist and fascist ideology. In the context of Kahanas, such as the JDL, it is even Nazi. If you want to know what the movement of Jewish national liberation is, check out the Bundists. They are revolutionary. Zionism is reactionary and has nothing to do with Judaism or Jewishness. Neocolonialism is the primary neutralizer to make the colonized into colonizers. One of the most destructive waves of ideology that is even less incoherent than Nosble ideology is Americanism. Americanism connects polymath rock to manifest destiny. This is a fairy tale ideology. I do not hate those that blend constitutionalism with socialism. I do not confuse constitutionalism with Americanism. But if we are honest, then we have to understand that constitutionalism is rebranding of the United States Bill of Rights on a social democratic centrist level. I do not mind if Maoists or Third Worldists want to debate this fact with the fans of Caleb Maupin, but do not insult each other. We need to start building a respectful language with each other. I truly believe that both supporters of mine and Caleb Maupin, supporters are civil enough to be civil with each other. So as far as constitutionalist socialist is concerned, I give you this. If we are going to embrace constitutionalist socialist ideology, learn about it from Martin Luther King Jr. Be warned, he was confused about Zionism, as Stokely Carmichael had correctly pointed out.
And don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Whiteness is false consciousness. It spreads like a virus, and the anti-white politics never shuts it down. We can only fight whiteness with a furthering of dialectics. Mexicans are not Latino or Hispanic, and if we are being correct, European citizens of Mexico are not really Mexican. The Aztec word for Aztec is Mexica. But what if some European citizens of Mexico realize that they are, simply put, the indigenous Aztecs that never really disappeared at all? Should we throw the anti-white politics on them? No. I, a European benefiting from whiteness, cannot lecture Mexicans or colonized South American natives by saying, hey, you are not Hispanic or Latino. Yet the more I allow this misconception to continue, the more I feed whiteness. But if I say kill whitey, giving this no context, then I will alienate Europeans that are potentially a part of the struggle too. Malcolm X had European blood in him, yet he was 100% black. I have some African DNA, yet it is clearly that I am completely European. We've turned off too many indigenous Mexicans. Most of them consider Marxism to be a form of colonialization. This is 100% our fault. It is first worldist and Eurocentric to deny this. It is relevant if several Mexicans have European DNA. It is irrelevant if several Mexicans have European DNA, because the Spanish colonizers that raped them. Ethnicity is not race. Race is unscientific nonsense. In closing, to neo-Jacobin, don't turn away the anarchists that watch your videos. There's a difference between real anarchists, which, by the way, do watch your videos, and the fakes on social media. That is not to say you should not criticize them. No one is above criticism, including myself. Be as respectful as you can, as you've always been, to your opponents. Understand the anarchists don't have a platform to participate in my memehood. The satire works. Keep it. Don't let it degenerate into madness. I don't like the memehood, but I don't think I can make it go away. You are in charge of this memehood from now on. Be especially kind to the Bundists and the Caleb Maupin fanbase. As it stands now, they are my closest associates. People mostly have the free range to write almost anything they want. But in my comment section, be warned, I'm really not going to tolerate any serious racism. In closing, I leave you with a poem by the founder of the Mexica movement. This poem was originally part of a lecture given by Olin, the founder of the Mexica movement, in 2006 at the University of Wisconsin at Whitewater. This video, which is the 2020 edition of Olin's poem, was released on YouTube on the date of February 15th, 2020.
Nightmare of my people. When I was young, I did not notice Canada's plains, the Mississippi River, the volcanoes of Mexico and Central America, that they were covered in blood, the blood of my people, at the hands of Europeans. And at Cajamarca, in Peru, on the Argentine plains, the Caribbean, along the Amazon, in the mountains, the valleys, the blood of my people in a Holocaust, in a savage genocide at the hands of Europeans. I did not notice the silence and slavery of my people. I was silent. I was a slave. I was ignorant. No one was there to tell me of the massacres, the smallpox Holocaust, the one that killed 95% of our population at the hands of Europeans. I did not know that our poverty was a direct result of being robbed of the vast mineral and land wealth, forests, farmland, gold, iron ore, the wealth of this our continent, centuries ago, by the thieving and killing hands of Europeans. I did not notice, I did not know, I should have known, but how could I have known, since this was kept from me? This was kept from my people. When I was young, my identity lay in shame, in poverty, in hopelessness, in ignorance. My shame in not being white. My poverty in not being white. My hopelessness in not being white. My ignorance told me I needed to be white. No other option was presented to me or made known to me or even wanted. I was a child of ignorance. I was a child of slavery. Slavery to the needs and wants of Europeans. The Europeans in Canada, those in the United States, the Europeans who control in Mexico and in Central America and in South America. I was a slave of ignorance, born not knowing of the monstrous European crimes. I did not notice, I did not know that I and those who are my people, the so-called Indians, that we were, that we are, the less than 5% who survived. We survived the massive killings, massacres, savage attacks by Europeans, the biggest Holocaust in the history of humanity. I did not know. I never saw the movie that told of this. The school books never mentioned this. My family, my friends, my people never spoke of this. The world did not speak to me of this. Of all of this, I was ignorant. There was no guidance for me from our leaders. We had no leaders, no venerables or warriors to give me or my people dignity, to teach us honor. There was no knowledge of our heroes and our accomplishments that could have been told to us by teaching us our Nicanflaca history, the history of our people as indigenous people. There was only racism since I was a child. Racism on all our continent, Canada to Central America and down to South America. The racism is everywhere, like a curse on our people. The colonial nations forced upon our continent keep us divided by their borders on our continent, their languages, their religion, and their need to keep us ignorant of our collective ownership of this whole Western Hemisphere. We are not free anywhere on our continent from the control of Europeans. They tell us where we can go, where we cannot go. They tell us all the wealth of our continent now belongs to them. Nothing now belongs to us. And we say nothing because we mostly know nothing of the truth. Not even the Europeans know the truth of all the crimes that their ancestors have committed on our people and on most of the non-European people of the world. I was ignorant when I was young, and I cried that I was not a European. I cried that I was not in the European pride of Greeks and Romans, in their wealth, in their intelligence, in their ingenuity, in their American work ethic, in their whiteness. was dark. I was a foreigner on my own land, on my own continent. I was just a child of so-called Indians who behaved as if they were Europeans. I behaved like a false European, knowing all along I was dark, that I was a child of this continent and not of Europe. I was dark from an unknown people. I was dark and in darkness. Darkness was my life of ignorance. Back then, when I was young, escape from reality of all these lies and racism was an absolute necessity to me. Escape was need and want and everything to me. Europe and Europeans were everything. Everything good and beautiful was in them. It was what I was taught. I escaped into their world. My people were not European, not good, not beautiful, not anything. They were irrelevant, or so I had been taught. In my escapes, I embraced my ignorance as if it was knowledge. I embraced the culture of Europeans without question. But then something happened. Knowledge began to bleed into my life. Life began to bleed into my mind. And I began a quest for knowledge. I began to learn the truth, and I no longer questioned the color of my skin, but began to question the wrongs that were done against my people. Up until then, I had not known the truth about my people, of our heritage, of our great civilizations, nor of our accomplishments, nor did I know of the crimes of the Europeans, of their invasions, the rape of our people, the thefts and massacres, the burning of our libraries, destruction of our cities, execution of our leaders, and the using of smallpox as a weapon of mass destruction to kill 95% of our people. 70 to 100 million killed in the Western Hemisphere. All were at the hands of Europeans. So many of my people were killed so that Europeans could have our land, our continent, for free, for nothing, just for some blood. Almost all the blood of my people, almost all the lives of my people. I did not know of this before. I did not know. No one ever told me. But then I began to know. But now I'm well into my middle years, approaching elderly, approaching the ending of my years. And now I know all of this. But I am old. And I have so much more to learn. I continue to learn and teach what I have learned. I confront racist whites with truth and demands for justice. I confront the traitors of our people with mirrors of their treason. I work to educate the ignorant ones of my people. I work to educate the ignorant ones of the Europeans. But how I wish that I was young and 20 and knew all of this that I now know. Most people now know a limited knowledge, a Eurocentric knowledge, knowledge that distorts, that makes less of the crimes of the Europeans, less of the accomplishments of our people, less of our ownership of this continent. Some know of Wounded Knee where 300 more or less were killed, and Sand Creek where another 300 more or less were killed. But we all need to know of Tenochtitlan, where 10,000 warriors in unarmed rituals were killed at the hands of dishonorable Europeans. Cajamarca, where 7,000 unarmed warriors were killed at the savage hands of cowardly Europeans with a pretense of peace at the hands of immoral, unethical, savage Europeans. I am still learning every day of crimes committed against my people. I am still learning of accomplishments that we made, of archaeological sites discovered, of our art that has been found. I now know of our great cities, Tenochtitlan, Tlaxcala, and Cholula, all of which were larger than any city in Europe. I now know we ran an education system in Tenochtitlan that had the first free and mandatory schools for everyone, male and female. And we think our people don't like education. We were a people of science, of hard work, of genius, of discipline. We had superior knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, the calendar, medicine, surgery, anatomy, pharmacology, botany, and a theology that was a science that was a pure love of our Creator. All of these accomplishments we did in form superior to anything the Europeans had in 1492. Yes, we had cities larger than those of Europe, and our cities were cleaner than those of the cities of Europe, with universities, hospitals, public restrooms, and a marketplace larger than any found in Europe in 1492. Unlike what we have been taught, the majority of our population on this continent was urban, living in large cities, large towns, and located mostly in the south of this continent. The small minority of our people were tribal and located mostly in the north. But we were one people. We are one people. One nation, one race, united by culture, by languages, by our collective history, and by our collective ownership of this land, of this continent. The Europeans caused on us a smallpox holocaust that butchered our population and destroyed our cities, that has distorted our reality, lessened our human potential, made us poor on our rich continent. My people need to know of this Holocaust, of these crimes. Europeans need to know of the blood on their hands, the stolen property that they now hold. European descent people need to know of this truth and the need for justice. The whole world needs to know of this. I now know so much I should have known so long ago when I was but a child. I now know perhaps too much, more than any human being should know, about the crimes of other human beings. But these are crimes against my people. I now cry some nights that we have no images of our Holocaust to remind us of these monstrous crimes. I cry for the books of our libraries that were burned, that we will never see. I mostly cry that I will not see my people free, that I will not see the pride of my people when they are free from Europeans, and we will have regained the sacredness of our continent, its beauty, its wealth, our independence from Europeans. But I can see the reality of that freedom in my dreams. My vision shows me that truth and justice will bring our people a nonviolent liberation. Our people will be free to be where the buffalo once lived, where our cities once were in their glory. Our people will be able to roam from tip to tip of our continent without borders on our lands, without Europeans stealing the wealth of our continent. One day the rivers, the mountains, the plains, the forests will no longer be covered in blood, the blood of my people, not the blood of anyone. We were a civilized people before Europeans came. We were a moral and ethical people before they came. We were a logical, reasonable people before they came. We were a courageous and honorable people, a people of knowledge and science, of democracy and egalitarianism. We were a people who honored hard work and merit. One day our children will be born into those accomplishments, those freedoms, as Anika and Tlaka, the indigenous people of this continent, free and beautiful in their own light. This is what I have to say. This is what I know will happen. Every day, my actions are my concrete prayer. I learn, and it is prayer. I teach, and it is prayer. I confront the enemies of my people, and it is prayer. I confront oppression, and it is prayer. I am here today, and it is prayer. I am of the Nicantlaca race, the indigenous people of this continent, without the borders, without the nations of the Europeans. I am a speaker of truth. I am a seeker of justice. I am of the Mexica civilization. I am of the Anahuac nation. I am a child of my Creator. I am a warrior for my people. In my vision and my dreams, I no longer see my people as enslaved, robbed, mutilated, raped, and buried alive. I see them in knowledge, courageous, in honor, with dignity and freedom. I am a child of my Creator. I am a warrior for my people. I am Olin Tezcatlipoca. I live my life as a prayer for my people.